It's a term that's used by most of the cold case units across the country that we never forget. We don't ever forget a homicide. A homicide has no statute of limitations in the state of Virginia. We go back and completely review the incident. We start from scratch. The witnesses are re-interviewed. We make phone calls. Every witness is important to a violent crime. Sometimes there's only one phone call that's needed to crack a case. To refresh a memory, it takes maybe showing the crime scene. We'll do that to solve a case.
Michael, my brother, we were 16 months apart, so we were really close. And very funny, just a warm person, loving, caring, artistic, creative, talented.
Mike was a, he just had a great approach to life, great personality, just, fun to be around. He joked around a lot. He had, great big smile. And very talented chef.
I've been knowing Michael for, well, prior to his death, 20 years, 18, 20 years, somewhere in the neighborhood. We had a great thing in common. We was both chefs, and we always swap recipes. We worked together. We used to jog together. Used to go lift weights together. He never did ride with me that much on the cycles because he couldn't keep up. But as far as the gym, and we shot a lot of basketball together. Went to a couple of plays. We go to the concerts. We hit the reggae clubs, and when the Whalers come in town, we'll go up to Innsbruck and hang. I mean, just doing a lot of stuff that good friends do.
I named my son that was born. His middle name is Michael, and I told him, I tell him who he was, and that was my brother, and I try to explain. He's 3.
It's hard watching all these cold cases on TV, and you're like one time I called the detective. I was somewhere on a conference, and I'm watching TV, and I'm just like, it can't be that easy. You're just watching these shows, and you get so consumed over all of these CSI, and I'm like, it's difficult.
Michael 911, where's your emergency? Sir, I live here in Wagner, 4905.
This case originated on November the 3rd of 2001. We received a 911 call at approximately 12:49 a.m. in the morning.
I just heard a shot here right in front of my house, and there's a man lying right next to a car there on the floor.
Police officers were dispatched regarding gunshots being heard in the area of the suburban apartment complex.
Did you see anything? No, we just heard somebody ran right next to our apartment here, that's all, and a shot, that's all. What this person looked like? I don't know, we were asleep. I just looked out the window and the man is lying there on the street.
The 911 caller directed the officers to the 4900 block, and once in the 4900 block, a black male was found lying beside his vehicle, obviously deceased from a gunshot wound to the head.
And you said you saw somebody running away from? No, I didn't see no one. I just heard that we were sleeping, and we heard the shot, the footsteps, the guy running by here, like going back to the other street back there.
This complex was the suburban apartment complex, which is no longer available to us. The crime scene has been destroyed, the apartments have been demolished, and it's not there anymore. We feel that whoever committed this crime waited for him to arrive home and possibly knew that he was coming home at that particular time. Once he got there, they approached him as he exited his vehicle. There was no struggle, there was no conversation, there was no yelling, there was nothing that any witnesses heard that would say that Mr. Lowther knew his attackers.
What's your name, sir? My name is Hidalgo. Spell that for me if you would, sir. Hidalgo. And your last name? That's my last name. What's your first name, sir? John. John, okay. All right, we've got fire and rescue coming, we've got police coming also. Can you see if the guys... I just looked out to the window of the door here, and the car is open. It seems like, I don't know.
What kind of car is it?
He has, or what color? Oh, shoot, tell me right now, I don't remember the color. It's like a silver car or something like that.
Okay. And the door is open?
Yes, and there's a body lying on the floor there with like a white shirt or something.
All right, can you see the man's race?
No, I can't. It's dark outside.
Okay. All right, we'll get him on the way. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
My husband woke me up early that morning, really early, and he said, you know, Nyla, it's an important call. It's about your brother. The guy said, I'm sorry, we don't normally do this, you know, and he just started describing my brother and what happened and how they found him, and all I could really grasp was, I didn't even really hear all the details. Everything just kind of stopped. And I was just like, no, that can't be my brother. There's no way that's my brother. And then I had to call my sisters, and I had to be the person to call everyone. And it was just, I didn't even have any way to lead up to it. I just called my sister. I was like, this happened to Michael, and the detectives called me, and it was just horrible. Everybody, it was devastating for everyone. Added a blow. Not fair.
I was on my way up to the Poconos with my family, my 2 children, my husband. And, you know, my sister called, and normally, you know, when my sisters call, I'm happy to hear their voice. And, you know, she said something's wrong. And, you know, so I listened, and she told me, but it was just, I was in shock. I had to, you know, stop, and I couldn't talk or think or anything. It was just incomprehensible for me. And eventually I was like, okay, I just kind of sat there, and I told my husband, but I was saying it, but I didn't really believe it or feel it. And I had to call my mom and tell her.
I couldn't believe it. How do you hear somebody say that your child is dead? You can't really absorb that. We never imagined that this could happen to somebody in our family, period. And I think for me, it's just been like total devastation in terms of, that's my brother. And we were very close. We had a lot of fun together, and he was always there for me. So it's made a very difficult transition for me.
This friend apparently describes the telephone calls from a female, an unknown female, that Michael was supposed to meet. Had Michael talked to you in any way, shape, or form about meeting that female that night, the night of his death, which would have been November the 3rd, 2001?
No, he didn't. He didn't mention anything to me about it. Now, a week prior to that Wednesday, we was hanging out and at this place called Rick's. It's a jazz and reggae club on Wednesday nights. Of course, we like reggae. And we were standing outside, and his phone just kept ringing, and he kept looking at it, and he was like, man, I wish this girl stopped calling me. Please, I just wish she would. I said, well, why don't you just tell her to stop calling? Feel like I've been cheated, you know, out of a friend, because I don't have no lot of friends, man. That's just something I never did. And I just feel that, you know, that a friend of mine got taken from me, man, for no apparent reason, man. I don't feel that, you know, the way he died wasn't the way he should have gone, should have left here, you know? I mean, none of us can say how, when, where we're gonna go, but a man of his caliber, man, he didn't deserve that. Michael got hit by a bus in New York City He got knocked up like 60 feet in the air, survived it, got up and walked away. Michael fell off a diving board and hit the back of his head, hit the water, got up and swam away. Michael got caught in the fire over here, burned from here down, both arms, face and ears, got up and walked away. You know, and I've been in this man's life when all this has happened. And, you know, and when his son told me that he got shot, I thought he got up and walked away, but he didn't.
We feel that this was a homicide robbery. Initially, when the officers got there, they found certain pieces of identification that belonged to Mr. Lowther, one being his wallet. The wallet had been gone through, and certain amounts of monies were missing. Several people were heard to be running from the complex, and we feel that it was at least 2 people involved. The forensics in this case was a lit cigarette that was laying beside Mr. Lowther. Mr. Lowther did not smoke, so we felt that that cigarette would be important to the case, and we feel that it was. DNA has identified the person who actually used that cigarette. That person has been brought in, has been interviewed, but at this particular time, we have only the DNA to show that they were possibly present at the time of the murder, or just prior to the murder. And again, to explain DNA can put a person at a scene, but it doesn't put a gun in their hands. This individual was a lady friend that knew Michael Lowther. We have several avenues we can go with the investigation. We, at that particular time, started to trace Mr. Lowther's cell phone calls. We can show that this individual made several phone calls to Mr. Lowther up until 20 minutes prior to the shooting. At that particular time, the calls stopped. After he was killed, the calls stopped. Mr. Lowther was supposed to meet her at his apartment and was somewhat late. We feel that that person possibly became enraged, or for whatever reason became upset with Mr. Lowther because he did not get there at the time indicated, and with that went out and what we feel actually got several individuals together to possibly maybe do him some harm. I don't think that that person knew that he was going to be killed. We're close. We're very close on this one. We've gotten inconsistent statements from this individual. We have, again, they have placed themselves at the crime scene as much as 30 minutes prior to the shooting. We need that one witness who can say that maybe this individual told them about that night and possibly implicated the shooter or implicated themselves.
Mike and I worked in the kitchen that night together, and then we had one beer at the bar after work, and it was just us two sitting up there talking and goofing off, and you know, we just had a nice talk that night, and we talked a lot about him being a father and what it meant to him, and it was very important to him, and I was getting ready to be a father at the time, so we had something in common definitely there. But you know, he left about 11 o'clock, and you know, that's the last time I saw him, and I got a call about 2 a.m. I believe from you to come down to the crime scene, and it's just, you know, a huge lump in your throat and a lot of tears. You know, we were devastated by the situation. I mean, a lot of people were upset, a lot of crying. I was pretty much just in shock. I mean, you know, something like that had happened to such a great guy.
I've never seen any type of employees act in that type of regard for anyone. They were there for us when we came down after the services. They fed the people who came, and they've just been there. I called one time just to see how they were doing and say hello, and the mother called. We spoke very briefly, but you know, that right there is just an example of the type of person that he is, that the employees of the place, the establishment that he worked in would go above and beyond, you know, what anyone would even expect. We didn't even ask, but they were just there. And if you could see the pain in them, you would think that they were family.
Once Mike died, I really felt like I wanted to do something to remember him by. So the first thing we did was we got a great photograph of Michael, and we put together a picture of him with you know, a couple of written words that we keep up on the wall in the restaurant. And we felt like we also needed to, we really wanted to do something for Mike Jr. Because he had such a huge hole in his life. We felt like the best thing for us to do was to try to put together a scholarship for him. And the customers and the staff at both restaurants participated, and we raised close to $3,400. And we took that money and put it in a CD for Mike Jr. And his dream was to go to pre-med school. And he used that money to go to pre-med school down in South Beach, Florida, and at Barry University, and that's where he's going to school right now.
Whatever is the story, then we need to hear the story. We need to know what happened, you know. And I'm sure that's the best way for everybody. Not that, you know, we want revenge like that, but also I'm sure it would help that person.
I see the effects of every last single person in my family affected by it. From my sister, especially because she's my closest sister, and ever since it's happened, it's been hard for her to enjoy her life. And she's a very dynamic person, and I miss her just as much as I miss my brother.
This is a horrible act against our family, and it's not, whoever is responsible for this is responsible for this, and they need to be held accountable for it. It's not something we focus on every day, but it is something that is there, and it may bring us a lot more closure into dealing with the death if we knew who the person was and that they were being punished for what they've done.